Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Our guest today is Brenton Thomas. Let's get into business, advertising, making money, all that good stuff. Welcome to the show, Brenton.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, let's start here by talking about the wins that every entrepreneur is reaching for. That's why they hire you, right? They want growth. Like they want to see the numbers. They want to make some more money. So
Mhm.
let's talk about your business and what is it that you guys are doing for your clients to help them achieve those next level income goals.
Yeah. Everyone's understandably, most businesses are highly focused on revenue and purchases. There's lots of secondary KPIs like email collection and like brand awareness, which is great. But all of our clients say they want to know how much money was put in and then what do we get out of it. So to help them, we tend to do mostly Google ads and Facebook ads. That tends to work really well. For most of our clients, especially like e-commerce products, we're getting about 300% return for every dollar we spend. So that means for every $1, we're getting $3 back from paid ads.
Okay. So right there, that would make most business owners stop in their tracks and listen.
Mhm.
And we'll get into that. We're gonna get into that and share some of those strategies and things for people. I want to talk for a moment though about you because you are the CEO, you're the founder of your company. And you mentioned something so interesting to me before we hit the record button about how important structure is. Now, I recently have been reading a book that was I was turned on to by a very successful entrepreneur who I've had on the show previously. And they share this statistic that 10% of people are wired differently, like literally genetically different. And within that 10% of people, fall successful entrepreneurs. But now that doesn't mean necessarily either that all successful entrepreneurs falling into this 10%, like we're just successful out the gate. In fact, this book talks about how, for the most part, our wiring, although it will get us to success, can also be like laden with challenges. We get distracted easy. We're all over the place. We get irritable. We get angry easy. We're driven, right? We're really driven people. And so when you said that structure really, really helps you and has helped you achieve success in your business, I was like, okay, we got to talk about this. So for those listening who can relate, let's talk a little bit about your structure, what's working for you, maybe some pointers, and how the hell you even stumbled upon figuring out how valuable structure was for you.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll have to read that book. I love to learn more about that in more detail. And like the 10% of entrepreneurs have that mindset.
Okay, I'll
Um,
tell
yeah.
everybody what the name of the book is towards the end of the podcast, so they have to listen all the way to the end.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's clever. Nice. Yeah, but for me and my journey with like process and structure, in the very beginning, so my agency has been around for about 3 years. And in the very beginning, yeah, I'm looking for a file, right? And then I waste like 30 minutes looking because I didn't name it right or something like that, right? And I was like, well, that's crazy that you waste that much time looking for a single file. And so it's like, well, let's never do that again. And so then as time went on and I added people to my team, I was like, okay, well, I need to make sure we're all on the same page. Well, what's the best way to do that? So let's get a project management tool. So that's the first thing I did. So we use Trello, and that works really well. We add all these cards, assign things, etc. And then my Google Calendar, I got it down to like every 15-minute block, right? Like if I decide to change what I'm doing for 15 minutes, I'll go in and literally change that block. And then I go back. And so let's say I pass that week, I'll go back and then look to see like, where'd you spend your time? Like, did you waste time on certain things? Could you have been more efficient? And I'll go back like multiple months sometimes. I'm like, well, where'd your time go? And so I'm reassessing, and it's like, okay, well, moving into the future, like let's spend less time on that thing that didn't make you any money or didn't add any value to the client. And now let's replace it with something that does add value to the client.
I love it. So that is essentially taking that 80-20 principle. If nobody's familiar, or if somebody I should say is not familiar with this, because I'm sure a lot of people are, that is this principle that, what is it, 80% of our efforts gets 20% of our results. And so if you can identify where's your time best spent, and you sort of clean up all the extra, get rid of all that other crap that you don't need, you become way more productive, way more efficient. Now, in terms of your business growth, how have you seen that actually helping in terms of your own revenue and productivity in your business?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back like a year and a half ago. And so I was just I wasn't like horribly unorganized, but I was just somewhere in the middle, and just wouldn't really assess my time. And so I had at that point the agency had like I want to say like 12 clients, and I was just like maxed out. I couldn't handle anyone else. A couple of the projects, like I just wasn't like spending the right amount of time on each project. Like each meeting would come up, and I'm preparing the agenda like 30 minutes before the meeting starts. And then I'm just like disheveled, and I get into the call, and I'm like, all right, I made it. I'm here. The wheels are on, and I'm speaking to whatever their project is about. But as time has gone on, we now have 16 clients, and I actually have room to take on even more clients. I could probably take on 5 more clients. I can take twice as many clients. That's because I'm way more organized now, and so that just means additional revenue, additional scale. That I'm not like 30 minutes before each meeting. I'm now I have like the whole week done of agendas in the first like Monday of the week, and then I can focus on other things. So it's pretty amazing.
The journey of the successful business owner, we start out sloppy in whatever area it is, usually multiple areas, right? And
Yeah.
as long as we're adaptable and we're learning and we're growing and we're really, really clear about our target, our goal, we just keep improving and course correcting. And those things really turn from being sort of sloppy and messy into these really efficient systems. Now, granted, there's always room for improvement. There's always room for growth. I'm curious from your perspective, like for you, um, did you consider yourself a disorganized person before, or were you always sort of the type of person who liked structure?
I would say I wasn't disorganized. I was just kind of average. And I think so. I spent 6 years in corporate before I started my agency for 3 years, and I just think in corporate you can just blend in with the crowd, right? Like you're unorganized, but there's a team effort going on, and if you're not super efficient with your time, and really corporate doesn't reward efficiency and productivity, but really like who did you like kind of like talk to and became friends with that's a vice president or chief of staff, so you spend more of your time doing that. And so though that skill set doesn't cross over into entrepreneurship whatsoever, it's not a good. So I think my foundation wasn't really built for entrepreneurship, but over time I became more of an entrepreneur.
I love that you said that. There is this misconception that you have to be a certain way in order to achieve a certain level of success. And that's a big part of what this podcast is all about, is dispelling those myths and misconceptions. Does not matter where you came from. It doesn't matter if you came from corporate and now you've got to learn a whole new skill set to become a successful entrepreneur. Doesn't matter if you were once procrastinator, if you once were terrible speaking in public. None of that stuff matters. You can rewire your brain to become good at pretty much anything as long as you're committed to it.
Yeah, you got to be persistent, dedicated. there's going to be like moments where you're like, whoa, like that was a bad experience. And you just have to tell yourself, well, that was a bad experience, but it was also a learning experience. And then I'm going to use that to get better. Like whatever my weaknesses are, that's shown me where I need to spend my time to improve myself.
Let's shift gears a little bit because I want to talk about advertising. I want to talk about that incredible return that people can get. Now, that didn't just happen, right? There is a sort of a system that you have that helps you to identify how to do that for your clients. Obviously, nobody is going to become an expert just by listening to a couple of tips that you share, but maybe you could give a little bit of context, share a little bit to get people to start thinking about advertising in a way that is going to lead to success instead of the sort of conventional way that people do advertising, which is let's try this. It didn't work. Advertising must not work.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, for sure. So I can give some like these are like high level tips, and I think these are the most common reasons why it probably didn't work for who was listening. But I would say the first thing is like make sure you spend a decent amount. So like just have like one campaign, and you spend like 1,500 a month on that single campaign, and like let that like test that out at that ad spend for at least 3 months. Because while it might seem that ads are instant, like you should get instant results, like that's another myth, right? Like everyone, I've spoken to clients and it's like it's been like 1 week, like why aren't we on track for $1 million? And it's like because the account's like optimizing and it's learning and I'm learning and that process takes time. Um, so another thing I would say is so when you drop your 1,500 into a single campaign and you're like, let's say you're testing a variable, like whatever the campaign's optimizing for. So let's say you're optimizing for purchases. Let each test run for at least 2 weeks at that low level ad spend. If you're spending like $1 million, a year, you don't have to wait as long because the data just flows in so quickly. But those are probably like the three like biggest things. Spend at least 1,500 and give each test a little time to run.
What does testing mean for someone who has this idea that you just create an ad and then you throw money at it? What do you mean by testing and kind of putting it into um, layman's terms for those who are maybe newish to Google advertising or Facebook advertising?
Yeah, so testing can be a number of different variables. So you can test allocation of budgets, you can test different types of creative, you can test different types of ad copy. There's a million things you can test. And so you basically need to think of a hypothesis. So you think, well, if I were to switch the ad copy to XYZ, what do I think the outcome will be? Will it improve the primary KPI? Maybe it's purchases or revenue or lead generation. Will increase the click through rate. So really just having an idea of like what do you want the outcome to be, and then usually start from like your hit list, like put together a list of ideas of testing. I call it a parking lot of ideas. And so sometimes with clients, if we're just like collaborating and we have like so many ideas, I'll throw them into like a Word doc and we'll just like move through all the different ideas and we prioritize them for all of our testing.
So when you're testing, basically what you're looking for here is how do we improve this? How do we get the most out of an ad? So maybe it's changing the headline or changing the graphic or changing the copy or whatever. You're testing different things to see what is going to get a better result. So if your goal is people signing up for your email list, well, how can we get as many people to sign up for our email list for as little, per email opt-in as possible is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, exactly. And I would also add to that, like have one campaign be really good at one thing. right? So don't have like one campaign. You're like, oh, also like I want some revenue out of this. I want to drive some leads. And if you can grab some emails as well, that'd be great for that one campaign. Don't do that. Just say this one campaign only has one objective, and that's to get fill in the blank, like leads or whatever. And then all tests should tie back to improving just that one thing for that one campaign.
Okay, I love that tip. And when when should somebody say, okay, this is just clearly not working? So you had mentioned, have at least a minimum budget, but for somebody who doesn't know what to compare that to, like what are some red flags maybe that would indicate to somebody, okay, this is just a flop?
Yeah, so that's tough. Okay, so let's say like I'm gonna use like Facebook ads for an example. Okay, so let's say you start with $1,500 a month budget. You're doing 2 week tests. I would definitely test out all the things on like the ad account side. So like your ad copy, your creative, what your campaign's optimizing for. Like each of those like variables could be a 2 week test, and then you can have sub tests of those tests. So that can go on forever, but you probably don't want that to go on forever. But I would say after about 2 months, you should have like a pretty good baseline, right? Like a pretty solid idea. Like if you're getting like a point 0.5 ROAS, like maybe you might find the secret, like how to get into like a 2 or 3 ROAS. 6 months later potentially, but around 2 months you'll get a baseline. And then I would say if you don't like your baseline around the third month, go look at that landing page, like really like figure that out. And then by the end of the third month, if you still don't like what you're seeing, then I wouldn't say give up, but you have like a decent idea of what it's going to look like for a
Got
while.
it. Got it. And for somebody who is like, what the hell is ROAS?
Oh yeah, sorry.
uh,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, sorry. You can go ahead and explain it.
return on ad spend.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, all the acronyms, right?
I
Uh,
I get it, right? When I'm babbling on about like mindset and metaphysics and emotions and vibration and the subconscious mind and stuff, oftentimes I'm sure I say things where people are like, is she talking? I'm lost. Like, what?
yeah. It's a lot of words to say. It's more words, if you don't say the acronym. So
All right. So now we talked a little bit about your mindset hack to be more productive, which was awesome. And I encourage people to sort of find their way of cutting out the fat. Um, for the entrepreneur who is they're a little bit all over the place. Like we can be really obsessed and really hyper focused, but we also can be like all over the place. Like right now, I think I have 30 tabs open. That's ridiculous, completely unnecessary, right? But I know I'm going to come back to them. I know I am. And so it's easy for us to sort of distract ourselves from productivity because of the way that our mind works and finding our ways of being more structured, more self-disciplined, more focused, is really a good thing. It really is.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. And like if okay, so like for myself, this works for me. Maybe it doesn't work for everyone, but like the night before, I'll move all the blocks on my calendar. I'll map out my day, and then when I get into that day, well, like let's say I start onto a new hour block for a client, and so each client gets like hour block. I call them working sessions for the clients, and then there might be meetings in there as well. And as I get into that hour block, I don't do anything but what that block says for me to do. Like I'm not like checking emails a little bit. I literally just work on that client stuff. And then only when I leave that block, and I plan this the night before, right? And then as I get into the next block from what I planned the night before, I only do what that block says. And at the end of the day, there's like a lot of little miscellaneous things, all these like random, like check some emails, that someone needs some information. Then all that happens at the end of the day. And so I find it hard for myself to like jump around to a lot of different things. and it just slows me down like mentally, and then try to get into the next thing. So I give everything a block.
I love it. So now I said I would share the book information, and I'm going to do that after you share how our listeners can connect with you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so you can I'll give you a link for the show notes. So it'll be a Calendly link. So anyone can reach out if you want to talk about digital marketing, or you have questions or shared experience. So you'll be able to click that link, schedule time with me for like 30-minute call. And then my agency is called Twibi. So you can go to Twibi Agency, TWIBI agency.com, and you can reach out to us there on our contact us form.
Awesome. All right. So the book is called Driven. I had to pull it up because I couldn't remember what the author's name is. Douglas Brackman.
Okay, let me take a look
Driven.
at that.
Just remember Driven. If you type in Driven and you see something that is referencing mm, genetics,
Understand the
genetic gifts.
Oh, yeah, I see that, understanding and harnessing the genetic gifts shared by entrepreneurs.
There you go. So that's a bonus read for everybody. Um, And I want to thank you so much, Brenton, for being with us today. We got into a couple of different, seemingly like tangent conversations here, but equally, awesome things that you were able to share with our audience today. So thank you so much for being with us and sharing some powerful tips today.
Yeah, no problem. Pleasure was all mine.
And got to thank all of our listeners. You know, we're doing this for you. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.